Welcome to Empyrion Galactic Survival, and here we are, guys. We're on Akua. It's dawn. You can see here I've just had another drone attack. I've been out and looted the drones, and eventually they will disappear. Now in this part I'm going to talk about the difference between deconstruct and disassemble, and why you would choose between the two. Just put the jetpack on, because I think it's quite an important issue and it can be a little bit difficult to get your head around it. But before I actually do that, guys, and completely fry my brain and put you guys into shock, I just want to go and show you what I've been up to. If I go over to the old base over here, you will see that it's now completely gone. I've had a major kind of disassembly deconstruct session here. I say the whole base is gone. The landmark is still there. I think that's because it's actually hard coded into the game. I've also done something similar with the comm centers that I been taking out in the last couple of parts, but I haven't completely flattened those. There's still some kind of nubs left because I'm using that as a reserve storage area for reasons which will become apparent as I go forward. Now the reason for making this part is actually based on a comment stroke question from Snafu, who asked me whether which way is the most efficient from the perspective of using the resources in the blueprint factory, or within the factory when manufacturing a blueprint is actually the correct term. And I must admit, he piqued my interest, and it ended up with me spending about 2 hours doing various experiments with different things, deconstructing them and reassembling them. And what I would recommend, guys, if you want to do that, make sure you save the game so you can go back, because you can waste a lot of resources just experimenting. And what I was basically doing is constructing things, deconstructing it, and then also dropping it in the factory. So I kind of made different things just to get a feel. And the best example I came up with is actually hardened steel blocks. And I've got some hardened steel blocks in the laid out, which I actually recovered from the comm center. I haven't actually manufactured these because, again, this is something you need to bear in mind with the way you're going forward, that to make hardened steel blocks, well, let me just show you guys. Let's go through the basics. You need, well, first thing, to make hardened steel, you actually need an advanced constructor. But first thing you got to do is make hardened steel plates. And what you can see there is, to make hardened steel plates, you actually need sathium ingots. This is why recovering hardened steel blocks from an enemy POI after you captured it is quite important, because in some ways it's a good source of sathium. The only problem is you can't actually extract the basic sathium out from it so that you can use it to make other things. But what you can do is, if you're planning on making a capital vessel or even using them in a base, you can recycle these blocks, or the actual blocks. These are the blocks I've recovered and I've put in here, to actually build your own capital vessel. I mean, and also they can, when you drop them into a factory, just to illustrate this, guys, before we go into it, so if you go into blueprint and you build here, you will see it says 504 sathium, and you can see it can get, the sathium level can get very, very high. And the reason for that is a lot of these ships are built with armored blocks. So if you can recover the armored blocks whole rather than deconstruct them, you get a full source of sathium. Now the big difference between, if I just come here, and you got here, it says here, disassemble says returns intact blocks from your own structures, has a chance of returning intact blocks on public structures. And I think this is a comment, I think it was John VZ800 said that if you make a base private, you virtually would get all the blocks back. So when you're recovering things like key elements that could be used towards a capital vessel, you want to use disassemble. Now what deconstruct does, it says deconstructing your own and public structures will always return the components. And just to kind of demonstrate the difference with that, guys, if I actually construct a hardened steel block, and if I actually then set it on deconstruct, now bear in mind that to make a hardened steel block, I've got to have 10 steel plates and 5 hardened steel plates, right? So now if I deconstruct this, And you can see there I've actually got 6 steel plates back and 3 hardened, just to demonstrate that in case any of you guys didn't see it down in the bottom left. When you deconstruct a hardened steel block, you get back steel plates and hardened steel plates, but you only get back 2/3 of the resources used to actually create that hardened steel block in the beginning. So just to kind of confirm that, guys, in case any of you guys are skeptical, you can see here, to make a hardened steel block you've got to have 10 steel plates and 5 hardened steel plates. Now what you see there is a rounding up effect, but you still remember that when you deconstruct something it has to come back in whole numbers. You can't have fractions of a steel plate. So you get 6 steel plates back and 3 hardened steel plates. But of course, just to confirm, if I actually put out this, and then if I come back here and I actually disassemble, just to confirm, guys, I get the hardened steel block back, and that is actually in here. So that's the difference between deconstruct and disassemble, and I've made a very strong case against deconstruction, but there is actually an advantage of deconstructing, and that is the sense of steel blocks. Now I don't think I've actually got a steel block here, so I might have to make one. I'm going to make I don't want a hard, I just want a plain steel block. Okay, just going to knock out a plain steel block. Now this takes a plain steel block obviously takes 10 steel plates, and if I disassemble this, or deconstruct it, sorry, if I deconstruct it, you see I only get 6 steel plates back. Now on the surface that seems to be a disadvantage, and it would be if you do what I've just done, which is manufacture a steel block and then pick it back up again. But, and this is a very big but, guys, if you are in a captured enemy POI, there is advantages for deconstructing the steel blocks, and that is because you get steel plates back. It also applies to some of the minor components that you will find that return copper ingots, because that's what happens, is that if you actually deconstruct some of the low level items in a POI, as I say, especially some of the decor stuff, you actually get back copper and cobalt ingots, and that can be very, very useful, because if you get those then put into your main constructors, your advanced constructor like this, so you can put these back in here, these steel plates along with the other ingots you release like the copper can then be used to create new items, which such as where is it, come in here, such as electronics and computers, and of course it can then also build up to making more complex items. And more importantly, by recovering the steel plates, you can see here I've got, well, 2,500 steel plates in here, and that's not just the limit, and that's actually been due to the fact that I was deconstructing the steel blocks inside of the comm centers. And the advantage of doing that, guys, is that most of the advanced items or higher level items that use steel normally use steel plates. So if you look in some of these items here, like here it says here motor steel plates, and if you come back to the steel plates, that needs 2 iron ingots. So if you actually deconstruct lots and lots of steel blocks and store them in your constructors, you no longer effectively have to mine iron ore, which takes a little bit of the grind out of the game, because obviously, well, personally I find taking apart POIs more interesting than down the bottom of the hole drilling out iron ore. And of course another advantage is that if you've got lots and lots of steel plates, if you come to the food processor, you can see here, oops, I've got 902 steel plates also in here, which makes it very, very useful for when I'm making canned vegetables and canned meat, because you can see here that these also need steel plates, and you can see 900 steel plates in here would probably last me the length of this Let's Play. So that's the case for deconstructing. So disassembling everything is okay, but you also got to bear in mind is if you get too carried away with disassembling every item under the sun, you will very, very quickly fill up lots and lots of storage boxes with junk. So what you need to do is balance between the two. Now I'm going to come on for the reason for taking back the higher level stuff and actually disassembling it rather than deconstructing it. Because if you're going to build a capital vessel, or even if you're going to build a capital vessel from scratch, you're going to need to create, especially if you want it really tough and you want armored blocks and you want some of all the advanced kit in it, you are going to need lots and lots of Sathium. Now, the starter planets of Akua and Omicron don't have Sathium in them, so you're totally dependent on the enemy POIs and chance until you can get up into space and do a bit of exploring and mine Sathium. So obviously the quick way is to actually use the blocks, especially in the sense that any Sathium ore or anything bonus anything you can use to making components that you cannot recover from POIs. But it also means that you can use all your armored blocks for a capital vessel, which is obviously, if you're building it from scratch, is ideal, because if you've got a couple of hundred or thousand hardened steel blocks and even armored blocks, anything like this, you can then use that for your advantage. Now, the next bit I want to talk about is actually the factory, because this comes back to Staffu's comment. Now, if I come into here and then we go to the blueprint factory, you will see that if I go back to come to the factory, my factory is empty at the moment. Now, you will see here that the requirements, except for the exception for growing plots and one or two exceptional things down the bottom, is always cast as ingots. Now, the problem with that is when you drop items in, these items are converted to the ingots. What I'm going to do now, guys, is to try and demonstrate how the fact that this does actually reduce everything you put in to the base ingots that are required to create this in the first place with no loss. Now, this is going to be a bit tricky because obviously these are the base ingots, and what I'm going to be dropping in is hardened steel blocks. Now, a hardened steel block requires 10 steel plates and 5 hardened steel plates. Now, if I step that back, 10 hardened steel plates require 3 steel plates and 5 Sathium ingots. So a hardened steel block requires 10 steel plates, which is 2 iron ingots, and 5 hardened steel plates, which actually break down to 2.5 Sathium ingots and 0.3 iron ingots. So which then translates into the fact that a single hardened block needs 2.3 iron ingots and 2.5 Sathium ingots. Now, just to demonstrate you the fraction, is that if I drop 2 hardened steel blocks in here, what we should get is 5 Sathium ingots and 4 or 5, actually, yeah, it's rounded up, so yeah, because it's actually 4.6. So by putting 2 hardened steel blocks into here, you get 5 Sathium ingots, which is the equivalent of 2 blocks, because it's 2.5 times 2, and of course it now rounds up to what's it now, sorry about this, guys, 4.6 iron ingots. So although that's saying that the factory has 4 iron ingots in, it actually has 4.6. And just to prove this to you guys, if I drop another 2 in, you can see the Sathium has now gone up to 10 and the iron has now gone up to 9, because it's effectively doubled it again. So that shows beyond all doubt the fact that when you drop an item into the factory, it actually reduces that down to the base ingots used to create that item as you would use them, but based on the fact that there are fractions hidden in the background. So it's like a precise calculation. And just to confirm that again, guys, is I've got 3 hardened steel plates here, which means that I should have, if I drop 3 in, I should get, this should then go up by, oh, I'm not sure what it is actually. Well, that went up by 1 Sathium ingot, but you can see the iron did not increase, simply because the fraction of iron did not reach 10. So underneath here, you've now got two fractions, one for sathium and one for iron. And again, just to demonstrate this, guys, if I drop another one in, and bearing in mind, actually no, let's just drop another 2 in. Remember, 2 is another 5 sathium, so we'll just drop this in. Actually no, if I drop 1 in, it might go up. Sorry about this, guys. Let's see how this happens. Yeah, so it's gone up to 14 instead of stayed at 13, and that's actually increased by 2. So hopefully that makes sense, guys, but I wanted to demonstrate that to you guys because it does take a little bit to get your head around. But that actually means that, say for example, I don't know if I've actually got a tier 2. I don't know if I can actually make a tier 2. Now, a moment I've got tier 2 1. Well, I need to go into research anyway, guys, to unlock some stuff. So if I unlock a tier 2 fuel tank for the capital vessel, not that I really need it, but we're just going to use it for example purposes. The other thing I also want to do, and I've got to find it, is I also need a med station, which I noticed. I think it's the med station is up here, because I want to build a med station as part of this part anyway. So so if we go back to the constructor, wow, we've certainly got a storm coming in. That's actually reflecting the way it is in the UK at the moment. I'm kind of looking out the window at the moment, and it's actually snowing quite hard at the moment. And I know some of you guys are maybe not aware, but where I live in the United Kingdom, you are lucky to see a light snow shower, because I live in the southern part of the United Kingdom. You're lucky to see light snow every 2, 3, 4 years, and that would be in the depth of winter in January, February. To actually have heavy snow in March and really cold temperatures, I think it went down to about -11 last night, is really incredible for the United Kingdom, and it's causing quite a sensation. I mean, again, to give you another counter example, guys, I've been out in some years where I've actually, how can you say, I've actually been out in the garden preparing the soil for planting at this time of the year, and at the moment the ground's frozen solid. Anyway, I'm digressing, guys. And what did I build? It was a fuel tank, wasn't it? A tier 2 fuel tank. See, if you see here, the tier 2 fuel tank needs 10 electronics, 6 cobalt alloy, for 8 optical fibers and 30 steel plates. So if you really wanted to, so when you're planning on what to put into the factory, when you're actually say for example you're trying to build a capital vessel, trying to calculate what this is worth means you've got to break this down into its key components, which can be a little bit of a pain in the neck. And this is why one of the things I said in, I think, my Omicron series when I was talking about it, sometimes you just need to kind of experiment a little bit and do it. But you also need to remember that these base units here have very, very little value. So when you actually build a blueprint and you're populating a blueprint, just for example, guys, so just drop this down onto here and we can take these hard blocks. So for example, guys, if you're populating a blueprint for a capital vessel and you're trying to get the rare elements up, what you want to do is drop the rare elements in first before you start worrying about the iron and the copper and the silicon and the wood and things like that, because it's the rare elements you need to extract from any whole units which will build up. But because all these units also use steel plates and all that, your iron and silicon's going to increase anyway. So it's these rare ones like the sathium. So this is where your armoured blocks come in, because you can see the armoured blocks are actually increasing the iron and the sathium at the same time. So your main source of sathium when you're trying to build up one of these ships is actually armoured steel blocks, and if you've recovered plenty from a POI, you're doing really well, guys. Anyway, I'm going to stop labouring that now, because I think I've flogged that to death, to be honest, guys. And what I want to do in here, I've also added some more cargo boxes here, because I've I've accumulated so much stuff, and I think what we're going to do is we're just going to put the thing. The problem with this is I can never know which way round it is. I think that's the right way round. I think we're just going to drop that. Yeah, that's the right way round. And of course, the nice thing about having this is that you can actually heal yourself up. It's quite an important piece of kit you want to have. And the other thing also, I've just noticed that I've been yapping so long that I've actually been consuming too much food. And the other thing I want to show you guys also while I've been here, and we might as well pick this stuff while I'm at it, is I've actually completed the greenhouse in here. I think I've got a load of aloe, or whatever it's called, aloe vera. It's actually a balm actually, so we're just gonna grab the tomatoes and pick this up. I've also got the texture plants. I will grab the fibre, kind of work backwards and forwards across the greenhouse as I work down. It's actually nice to be in the dry, so just get the oops, nope, doesn't want to, no, come please. Because we've got some pumpkins here. I mean, I think once you've got a greenhouse like this up and running, you've effectively solved all your food problems, guys. And we've got some durian fruit here. Of course, we come here, we've got some more pumpkins. I mean, I haven't filled in all the bases. What I have done is put a little bit of wheat here, just for thing. I think that's still growing. I put some wheat in just for the fun, so we can experiment with different types of food. And we've got the textured plants in here as well. Let's grab this. So yeah, so you can see I've completely now filled this in. What I did in the end is I took some mule milk and left it out, let it spoil, and then that actually gave me the spoiled food in order to complete these farming blocks. You can see we've got the lamps over the top and it's looking really, really good. And so what we're going to do, guys, is, well, we need to drop some of this stuff in. You can see how productive this has actually become. Oops, obviously it's overflowing down into here. Actually, what I could do is take this out. I don't actually need textured plant protein in here, so we can put some more tomatoes in. You can see I've got lots and lots of corn, because the other thing I've also been doing is actually putting this in the large constructor, and I've been knocking out what's it? That's it, cornstone dust. So it's just what I tend to do is just do that, guys, just to keep it simple. And what we can do is just drop this into the advanced constructor, and if we go back to fridge, I can put this into here. Wow, I'm getting a bit too productive here, isn't it? So that's why I've got an overflow fridge here. I really need to unlock the tech and actually upgrade my fridges, and of course we can drop this in here. So we're building up a reserve of oxygen, and of course I can now put some of these blocks back in there. I mean, and I think that's it. So we've actually got the clone station. Oh, I could have put this over that side, but no, I'm quite happy with that there. The med kit. And wow, I'm not sure what I can do now, but I think maybe I've fried all your brains, guys. So I think what I will do is, well, it's absolutely raining. Actually, I think what I will do, guys, is just fly over. Actually, I need to make another call because I've actually disassembled a, so we're just gonna knock up a core. So just knock up a core, guys, quick core. You can see the basic elements being knocked out here, guys, and you can see I didn't convert any iron simply because I've got the steel plates in here as well, but it did convert copper and silicon. Right, so what I'm going to do now, guys, is just fly over to the comm center. It's going to take a little while, so I'll probably edit the video here so that you, because obviously flying across in the rain isn't particularly the most exciting things. I think this is the one that's still got some stuff in it. Oops. So I'll see you once I've got to the comm center, if I haven't crashed in the process. Right guys, here we are. We're coming up on the comm center just to show you what's left of the other one first. I'm sorry it's getting dark, but you can see here that I've completely almost flattened this one down. If I come and show you, there's not much left of this one. I've basically stripped out all the key components. What's left is steel blocks and hardened blocks and various other little bits and pieces. What we'll do is we'll come in on, and this one isn't that much better, I don't think, to be honest. I think this one could be even worse actually. Okay, now it's a bit better. So you can see I've been banging away at these for a little while, but there's enough here for demonstration purposes, and you can, actually maybe the other one's a bit better. Okay, let's go over to the other one. Maybe this one that's actually in the better condition. I thought it was that one. Never mind. Yeah, this one's actually in the marginally better condition. Maybe I've... yeah. So just oops. So what we're going to do, guys, is I think we'll land on the top actually. Land on the top, then we won't get any creatures creeping in on us. Right, and then of course what I've got to be careful of is actually things. So what we're just going to do is jump out, and of course the first thing I want to do is actually drop a core on the top. Actually no, what we'll do is let's just put a core further down, because obviously you want to take this apart from above. So maybe we'll drop a core down into here, and what we should be able to do now is it's now private. And of course there's no power here, so but that's not a problem. And if we actually come onto here now, and if we do disassemble, and what you see now is you can recover the blocks like this. And that's slope, I don't know what that is. That's a truss block. So, and of course what you can do, just to illustrate guys, is see that, but the easiest way to do this actually is to stay on disassemble, because if you do need steel plates, you can actually take them apart back at your base if you suddenly run short. You can see here, so you can get a nice pile of them here. That's a stairs block. Okay. Again, you can take these things apart. You can see the resources you can get here. I mean, it's quite a useful way to gather the necessary resources to actually build a capital vessel or anything you want actually. So you can see here, and as I say, and if you really want the steel plates, just flip to Deconstruct. And to be honest, I don't think you need to be that fussy, to be honest, because you are recovering. Let me just show you guys. You are still recovering the hardened steel plates and the steel plates, so you could still convert those back into hardened steel blocks. It just means there's losses. So it depends on how min-max you want to be and how quick you want to get out with a capital vessels, you know. But to be honest with these, there's so many of them that you could. Hello, there's somebody coming in, and so again, it's very much a matter of personal choice, guys. Actually, let's get back to here, because I actually want the hard steel blocks. Otherwise, I'm going to end up with lots and lots of. Yeah, there's a. Of course, the important thing is don't disassemble your core, guys. Oops. Hello. Aren't you ugly? So just take a few more, guys. I don't want to labour this too much because, I mean, obviously this isn't the most exciting element to watch in a video. But I might as well gather this up here. Yeah, it's a shuttered window block. I mean, again, that's useful. So again, as you're going through, and what I actually do is like to disassemble the lights because that actually gives you optical fave cables, which can be quite useful. And there's only there's a limit to how many lights you can actually accumulate. So. Okay, one more row and then that's going to be it. I think I've probably bored you guys enough with this video. Anyway, that's it, guys. Well, we can. What is that? That's a hardened. So another. And just to show you guys, so we got 92 hardened steel blocks, we've got 145 steel plates, we've got some truss blocks and stairs, which again you can use to drop in to make a CV, or if you want to construct something. Even these shuttered windows, you can see you can drop these in, and that all adds up when you're actually constructing a capital vessel. But I think, oops, let's get back into first person. It always feels very clumsy when you're walking this way. Anyway, guys, I think this is where I'm going to leave it, because I think I've covered a lot of ground, and I think some of you are going to probably think, what the heck has he been talking about? And, well, so this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. If you've got any other tips related to this disassemble and deconstruct, feel free to add them, because it's an area which is a little bit abstract, and it can actually have a big impact on what you want to do in the game, and reducing some of the grind. So this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.